Greetings, viewers. So, welcome to Brit in Poland. If you haven't been to this channel before, my name is Richard. I've lived in Warsaw for almost 4 years now, and this channel is about Poland. It is about my life here in Poland, and it is about the towns, about the customs, anything I can think of to do a video about in Poland. I try to put it onto YouTube. So today I am going to be talking about finding a flat. So maybe some of this advice is a little specific to Warsaw, but I think it can generally be applied to most places in Poland. But I know that when I moved here, I had help. My first flat was basically found by the company, and so I didn't have to do anything except pick from a list of which flat looks the nicest, and I just went with the basic. My second flat, I went for an agency. My third flat, I got through the help of my landlord from that second flat. And the current flat I've just moved to now, I found through the internet. So I wanted to give you some advice about looking for flats in Warsaw, what you should look for, what you should expect, and some of the best ways to go about finding what you are after. So first things first, let's talk about your requirements. So before you look for a flat, you should have a number of things in mind, partly to help either the agency find something for you or to narrow down your search criteria. But every flat in Warsaw is a bit different. Every area in Warsaw is a bit different. So what do you need? So there are a lot of factors to consider. So firstly, let's start off with the most obvious, which is location. Now, Warsaw is a big city. If you just pick a flat at random, you could end up anywhere. So if you're perhaps getting a flat remotely before moving here, or you're just leaving it up to chance, I wouldn't recommend that. If you want to be near the city, near the center of the city, I would look at places like Wola or Śródmieście. I think I pronounced that right. Or Żoliborz, or these are Mokotów. These are the areas that most people who want to be close to the center will tend to be in. If you want to have a nicer flat, but perhaps pay a little bit less for it, then be prepared to go extreme north, extreme south, east or west. That includes Praga. Praga, up and coming area, one of the oldest areas of the city, but also has some of the newest developments. So if you don't mind a bit of a commute to the center, that's a good place for you, because prices there are very, very affordable. What else do you have to think about? So you have to think about how big a flat you want. Now, typically the measurements here, everything's done in square meters. The smaller flats will be sort of 20 and lower. Your average size flat is probably sort of 30 to 40, and your larger flats are kind of 48 plus. So I've lived in a 40, a 48, and a 60, and I'm back down to a 48 now. To be honest, 48 has been my happy size. 60 seemed to be a bit big and a bit hard to clean when you're living on your own, and it was a bit unnecessary. I wanted a flat to entertain people, and I got this, and then COVID came and then entertainment kind of went out the window, so never mind. But then you had to think about, okay, so how much do you want to pay a month? Now this is going to be dependent on the various factors, so location, amenities nearby, and size of the flat. I say Warsaw rents are typically a little bit higher. So if you're looking for just a small flat, you can probably get away with maybe sort of 1,600 a month or so. If you're looking for something mid-range, you're going to be looking like 2,500. And if you want something big, you're talking 3,000 plus. So what's your budget? This is another important thing. And then, okay, this may sound weird, but floor is also worth considering. You know, are you happy to be on the ground floor? Personally, I'm not. So would you rather be on a higher floor? And if you're going to a higher floor, does your building have an elevator? May seem common sense to most people that buildings would, but you have some older buildings here in Warsaw that don't, so think about that, especially when you're moving your stuff in, or if you don't particularly like to go up and down stairs a lot. But in terms of like other features to look out for in a flat, it's like, does your flat have a balcony? Is a balcony important to you? Do you need a dishwasher? Do you want your flat to come with a TV already? Or, you know, tumble dryer. I haven't seen a flat with a tumble dryer yet, but you know, think about the different amenities that you will need to have for your everyday living. You have the some of the factors. So like, do you have a pet? Because not all flats are pet friendly. Are you a smoker? Because again, not all flats are smoker friendly. What do you need? And also, how long do you want to stay? I would say the typical contract of a flat in Warsaw is about a year. I've done a year or 2 years. You can do more, but best not to restrict yourself. But of course, if you leave it to a year, then it's quite likely your landlord might up the rent at the end of that year, potentially, depending on the economic situation at the time. I quite expect the rent of this flat to go up when I renew my contract. We'll see what happens. Okay, so that's some of the things you should think about when getting a flat. What kind of costs can you realistically expect to be part of the flat renting process? So firstly, when you rent a flat, you will have to, of course, pay rent. This is obvious. But also you have to pay a deposit. And this is typically 1 month's rent. Some landlords might charge a bit more. I guess some may charge less, so I haven't encountered that. With this flat, I had something called a cleaning fee. So like it just covers the owner hiring a cleaner when you move out, I presume. I should have checked that. But these are some of the costs you should consider as part of any basic flat package. Of course, you are expected to get your deposit back at the end of your tenancy, but it kind of depends a bit on, firstly, how good a state have you left the flat? Have you kept it clean? Is anything broken, etc., etc.? And is your landlord, what's he like? You know? I didn't have to fight for my last deposit, but it was a bit delayed. And I got most of it back, well, over half. And yeah, there were a few quibbles over this wasn't clean enough, you know, I didn't like this, didn't like that. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to argue, I just want some money back. And I used that towards a new laptop, which, you know, was quite handy. But yeah, you can generally expect to receive your deposit back a month after you move out is the typical arrangement. But again, check your contracts. Speaking of contracts, you have to think about some of the legal aspects. So I never had to show like proof of earnings or anything like that. Generally, as long as you've paid that deposit, that's your kind of proof that you're able to pay. But you can expect a contract. These will typically be in Polish, though if your landlord is nice, he might translate it into English for you. Or if you really request it, you could have like a dual language, so Polish and English. And some employers will ask for this. So know that certainly you need to have a Polish copy of the contract if you're dealing with anything government related. So always make sure you have at least a Polish copy. English copy is a bonus. Otherwise, just learn Polish or use Google Translate religiously. But let's get down to some other things. So one issue I found in my last series of hunting for flats was some landlords are not comfortable with foreigners. I was a bit surprised. I found this flat I loved. and was more than eager to sign a contract, move in, and then once the owner got involved, it was like, no foreigners. And I know like some landlords have had a bad experience, some foreigners tend to like just wreck the place, some will like skip the country. You know, like there have been various issues people have faced over the years. I'm not here to judge exactly, but it is something that happens. I don't know how legal it is to discriminate in that way, but it is what it is. If somebody doesn't want to rent to you, they're not going to rent to you. So do bear that in mind. So yeah, if you find a flat you like, it is worth trying to get that as soon as possible. There can be a high demand for flats, and trust me, after seeing quite a few flats in Warsaw this year, the state of some flats is better than others. So if you find a flat that you're like, I like this, I would recommend trying to make an agreement with the landlord or with the agency or whatever. So don't wait around too long, because that flat will disappear. In fact, when I got this flat, literally I left just as the next group of people were coming to view it. I felt kind of bad, but this is how it works. I already said to the landlord, I'll take it. And finally, what are the best ways to search for a flat? So there are quite a number of different ways to find flats in Warsaw. So firstly, the easiest way is using an agency. So I think I used Rent a Flat for my, the first place I needed to find here. The service was excellent. They took my considerations. They met me on the weekends. They even sorted out my internet for me. What is the downside of an agency? You're paying. And how much are you paying? Typically a month's rent in fees. So they're perhaps inclined to find you a more expensive flat. You probably won't really be able to negotiate a cheaper price than you see on the ticket. So yeah, if you don't care about money so much and you just want to get something sorted and done professionally, go for an agency. You can get some private agents that might charge less. In my experience, it didn't really help. They just seemed to be quite useless. But maybe I just found a bad one. We'll see. But this is, okay, so agency is probably one of the common routes for foreigners to find somewhere in Poland. But also there are a number of websites you can use. So there are a number of dedicated flat websites, so like Autodom, for example. And sometimes these cover a range of cities, but there are some, I think they're exclusive to Warsaw. I'll try and put some links in the description to help you look for those. There are also sites like Gumtree. Again, you get a lot of flats listed on there, so another place to look. And there are various Facebook groups, typically in Polish. I was added to a couple of them by friends or colleagues who were like, oh, you're looking for a flat? Try this place out. And often you'll probably find some cheaper arrangements, but a lot of the ones I found on these sites were more like, oh, we have a room to rent. So, if you're happy to be in a shared flat, that's fine. Personally, I'm quite happy living by myself. But yeah, this is a kind of a very basic guide to finding flats. The good thing about Warsaw is there are new flats all the time. With the whole COVID situation, a lot of people moved out of the city, so in theory there should be more availability, fewer students around, but at the same time a lot of landlords are kind of using the time to renovate their flats. So that's maybe hitting the availability a bit. I know when I looked back in August, it was a bit difficult to find somewhere. And I looked at a lot of places and I was very grateful when I finally found the one. But thank you for watching. I will always try to think of things to help out people like myself who are new to Warsaw and just want an easier life, or new to Poland and want an easier life, as well as to try and educate you about the history, culture, everything I can. about this country. So thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely time, and do zobaczenia.